What's going on? It's allhiphop.com here with AKA. What's going on?
I'm good, brother. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
Sweet.
Good
It's
to
hot.
finally sit with you.
Good to be here, man. You know, the States are showing a lot of love. The world is showing a lot of love to African artists.
Yeah,
And, you know, it's never been a better time. So here we are.
that's what's up. So, is this your first time here?
No, this is not my first time in New York. Not my first time in the States. I find myself coming here more and more, you know. Obviously, as the music, you know, crosses over, you know, not just South Africa or the continent, but over to the UK and Europe and over to the States. I find myself coming back a lot more. So, you know, I've come to New York a couple times, done a couple of shows here, Los Angeles, you know, been to Dallas before, had some family, you know, in like Seattle and shit. So, yeah.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
So, how's the reception been? How have the people been treating you?
Well, you know, for me, I really measure it in the last few months, you know. I performed out there at the BET experience. I was the only, you know, African artist to perform on the main stage. So, you know, it was me representing the continent, and then obviously the usuals like Designer and Fat Joe and all sorts of people. So it was cool to really be in that bracket and perform to that crowd. And the response was great, man. And then I came out here, you know, obviously, you know, we had Every Day a Freak out there, and you know, I was really the guest, and we performed, me and my DJ, we killed it, and people just really wanted to know more about me as an artist, more about me as a musician, as a performer, and they want more, so that's what we're gonna give them.
Okay. So let's talk about you as a you know, as a person, as a performer.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about your background.
Well, I come from Johannesburg, South Africa. I was born in Cape Town, in South Africa, and you know, had a normal upbringing. Obviously, I fell in love with hip hop music, not just the music, but the culture, the lifestyle, the swag. I remember the first, maybe I'm giving away my age. The first rap album I bought was No Way Out.
Okay.
Puff Daddy and the Family,
Right.
Shiny Suit Man, you know, and that was really how I got into hip hop music. Bone Thugs and Harmony, Puff Daddy and the Family, obviously B.I.G., Pac. So we're looking at about like 96, 97, 98, Missy Elliott, all that type of vibe. And you know, it's kind of interesting as time went on in South Africa, we started making hip hop more of our own. You know, it used to be a stigma attached to it, like, yo, this is something from the States, you know, who you guys trying to be, you know, this is American thing. And much like it is in France or in Germany or in Sweden or wherever else in the world, even in Korea, hip hop is global. So why would it not make sense to have the birthplace of music and the birthplace of rhythm and drums? Of course, it makes sense for African hip hop to come to the fore, you know. So you know, fell in love with hip hop music. Went to school, you know, just had a normal upbringing, man. And you know, I knew that I wanted to be a musician pretty early in my life. I think first year of high school, I realized this is something I could do, so we started messing around, making beats, started writing about whatever it is a kid in the first year of high school has to write about. And yeah, they say the rest is history, man. Here I am, 2 albums later. You know, lots of accolades in my own country, on the continent. You know, I've won MTV. You know, MTV, you know, has MTV Africa. We have our version, like the Mamas, the MTV Africa Music Awards. I've won those awards. I've won awards here in the States from Afrima. You know, we're getting a lot of playlist rotation on BBC One Extra in the UK now. I've toured the UK. I've toured the continent, and this is really the next frontier, man.
Okay. How now? Alter Ego, that was your first album?
Yeah, that's my first album.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
On that album, you say, I never wanted to be a celebrity.
I see you did your research.
A little bit.
Yeah.
How is that still the case, or is that important to you now?
I think that it's something that's unavoidable. You know, obviously when you get to a certain level, you know, there are things and byproducts of what you do that you can't really you can't separate the two. But I think when I said that, what I meant to say was I prioritize being an artist, being a musician, and being a performer. That's what I love to do. I love to be on stage. I love to be in the studio. That's what I was born to do. I wasn't born for all the other shit, you know, articles about who I'm dating or who I'm this or that or the other. That stuff is just a byproduct of all the things I do. And as time goes on, I'm beginning to understand, you know, my role and how I can't really separate the two. So, Yeah, things change, man. You know, your perspective changes as you grow up. I'm a father now, so that also, affected me in terms of how I look at my life and so forth.
Okay. Now, a few years ago, we tried to start All Hip Hop Africa, and I
Uh huh.
went to Cape Town and Joburg
Oh
too,
yeah.
and scouted it out and
Yeah, yeah,
looked
yeah.
around. That was about 8 years ago,
Yeah,
and the recession hit all of us real
yeah,
heavy.
yeah,
So
yeah,
we
yeah,
really didn't jump it off. But
yeah,
um, the scene has changed a lot since
yeah,
then, from what I
yeah,
understand.
yeah.
What's it like now?
Well, I think if you look at 8 years ago, what's that? 2000 and my math is bad. What's
Yeah,
that?
2008,
9, 8.
9, yeah.
That was really when I was starting to try and even get into the industry. That was before people even knew me, or I was still a producer at that point, but the industry has changed. The growth has been exponential because, like I say, it used to be like a stigma attached to it. We saw the dominance of house music, of dance music, of gospel music. Africa, gospel is always going to be big. It still is. Um, but now we can confidently say that hip hop music is the biggest genre in South Africa. It gets the most media coverage. It gets the most. You can't do a concert without having hip hop artists on the lineup. You can't fill a club without it. You can't. So it's grown into its own entire animal all by itself. And I think I was also very lucky that I came around at that time, because it had to go through the phases of hip hop being wrapped in vernacular languages. It took a while for people to say, okay, we can do this thing in English and still feel African about it. We can still feel South African about it. And I think I played a major role in that, because I think if I stand corrected, I'm the first South African, English rapper to sell platinum, to go platinum in my country. So, I'd like to think that I pioneered that.
How important is America to you in conquering, the states?
Well, for me, obviously, you got to take it from a hip hop perspective, in that America is the birthplace of the culture. All right, that is where we get a lot of our direction from. The swag, the clothes, the attitude, more than just all the other things. It's the attitude, it's the mentality that we use the states as a compass for. You feel me? But after a while, we started making it our own. So now we look at it and we've got our own genre of hip hop, our own brand of South African or African hip hop music, and we look at the states and we think, okay, well, what's it gonna take for us to break into that market? Because at the end of the day, it's like the final stage in a way. And I never really used to think about that. I used to think, well, you know what? It's cool, man. I don't really need to try conquer the states, because I can be a millionaire in my own country anyway, and I can make $1 million. I got dollars here in Africa, and I'm fine. Until I started coming to the states, and I started realizing, oh, there's so much more to do, and also people are more open-minded than they used to be. I think you can attest to that as well. Don't you think,
Absolutely.
like, in the last few years, in 5 years ago, American artists would be like, yo, we really want to work with African artists, blah, 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 blah. And they said it, but I don't think they really meant it.
Right.
But when they say that now, they mean it, because you can see the results. You see them building the bridges. And it's very interesting to be alive in the culture right now. What a time to be alive. Feel me?
Definitely. I also think that people are, we want to hear different things too.
Yeah.
I think commercial radio and video and TV are flooded with a lot of the same.
Yeah. Look, I know the States is really good at telling their story. I just came from the I like to do like cool cultural shit when I come to the States. I went to the World Trade Center Memorial. I went to the pools and shit. And it struck me, and I realized, like, man, if you think about Hollywood, if you think about stuff like that, the States, they know how to articulate and tell their story. And we could learn a lot from that. But it feels like you guys want to hear a new story. You want a new story now. What's the new story that we can, like, the new wave we can get on? And I also think African Americans want to kind of reconnect with their identity as Africans. And I think that is the most priceless commodity that we have. If we can bottle it and we can use our culture, our heritage, use is a bad word, but use our culture, our heritage, and our identity, and use that to build a bridge between, the regions, then I think we can create something new.
Absolutely. So
That was deep.
Yeah, that was
That
real
was
deep.
deep. That was
So
deep.
how do you feel when you see now everyone's wearing dashikis, kente cloth, and
Uh-huh.
how do you feel about that?
I think we need to remember that, like, just leading on what I just said, is like people want to reconnect, right? People want to feel a sense of belonging. All right. So a lot of the African Americans in the States, they can't really trace ancestry or where they from, for so to speak. They created their own. They came to America and they created their own industries and infiltrated sports and politics, and they came on the boat and they ended up being the president.
Yep.
You understand? So if you think about it, it's kind of a microcosm of thinking about, like, okay, well, people are starting to wear the clothes and trying to get closer to that vibe and really trying to reconnect. So for us as Africans, we kind of sometimes, like, we make a little fun of it. Like when we see Americans come back to South Africa, they're like, oh, the motherland, oh, the kiss on the ground and stuff. And for us, we can't really understand it because we take it for granted, right? Until I did this interview with Taraji and Terrence Howard. They were in South Africa recently. And I thought to myself, wow, this is Taraji's first time. She was like crying and stuff. I'm thinking, like, well, I mean, and it clicked to me, it's crazy for them to come to South Africa and see so many black people in one place running a country and being so proficient at keeping things running and keeping things going. So, she probably felt a big sense of being home. So for us, we also need to look at it and be like, look, man, people might not go about it, in the way we think is cool to us, but to them, they feel a real emotional connection with it. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. I can attest to that.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about music. Who did you mentioned Puffy and some others. Let's say, who's your top 5?
Top 5 dead or alive?
Yeah, top 5 dead or alive.
Oh, man, here we go. Jay-Z, Kanye West, Nas. This is controversial. Eminem. 3 Stacks.
Okay.
I'm gonna leave Pac and Big out just to, like.
Yeah.
It's two. But that's not a bad top 5, right?
That's a great top 5.
That's a good top 5.
Give us why.
Jay-Z, because Jay-Z is the he's Jay-Z, he's the god, business, he just, like, come on, Jay-Z. Kanye West, influence on the culture, man. He's the most influential, he's probably, like, the most influential person in the culture since like Michael Jackson, Eminem, because just raw skill, records sold. Obviously he's white, so, but still at the same time, man, like, you can't doubt Eminem's skill. I mean, he comes from that background. He's won Grammys. He's done it all. Nas, for this probably the same reason as Eminem, it's just in a more, like, New York way. And I say Andre 3000 because Outkast was like a big. I'm a huge Outkast fan, and I think he's also crazy creative and lyrical and just fresh, man. And that's my top 5. Honorable mentions, obviously Big, Pac, and who else? Am I missing anybody out? That's a pretty. I've got it covered, huh? Yeah.
Well, now, when I first heard the first song from you and a couple others, I immediately, Drake came to mind. What do you? And I hope that doesn't offend you or does.
No,
it's
cool. Go
It's a
ahead.
Have you heard that before?
Yeah, I think it's something to do with skin color, man, to be quite honest.
Right. Yeah.
But the truth is, man, like, if somebody says you can dribble a ball like Michael Jordan, then that's not a bad thing necessarily. You know what I mean? I like Drake's music. I don't think he's top 5 by any stretch of the imagination. However, he is gonna go down as one of the greats. I definitely have a respect for Drake and his art, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
How has it been for you opening for big acts like, I saw Kanye, Big Sean.
It was cool up to a certain point, At some certain point in my career, I really needed the platform, and the type of productions that those guys, and the companies that put it together put them on, and I enjoyed it until a certain point where I felt like, this is my country and I'm of a certain standing now, so it doesn't make sense for me anymore because these are my people that I'm performing to. It's hard to expose me to my own people. So at some point it clicked for me and I was like, I don't think it's a great idea. That mustn't be confused with the fact that I won't perform on the same bill as artists. It also really has a lot to do with just amount of effort that goes into their production. I also want certain things because if you're going to perform on the same bill as Drake, you need to have a certain type of production value to your show. You can't come on with a little spotlight and a little DJ and do your thing, and then Drake comes on and he's got like a mountain. They've built him like a mountain with like 10 screens. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it has more to do with that than anything else. I really don't have anything against American artists or anything like that. I love American artists. I love the music. I love the culture. But it's just where I see myself. I see myself on a higher place. I have bigger aspirations for myself.
Your music. So what's your approach to music now? I've noticed there's obviously a more, to me at least, a more universal sound now. It's more in line with commercial radio.
Yeah.
Was that a conscious effort?
Yeah, man. I think my last 2 songs that I put out, my music has always been commercial. And when we say the word commercial, we mean popular, In South Africa, I don't think there's anything like, in South Africa, I don't think there's anything like commercial or underground. I think it's either people know your shit or they don't, or people rock with it or they don't. So for me, I've always approached music in a very like organic way. I've never said to myself, I want to make radio music, but I'm just at a point in my life, my experiences and how I want to showcase my artistry. I want to sing a bit more. I want to make more dynamic songs. I want people to dance. I want people to smile, have fun. And if that is, a commercial effort, a conscious decision, then so be it. But I don't think that's what it is. I'm just enjoying good vibes and good energy and making people feel good. And if that's what it is, then that's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's your deal with Sony? Is that still?
Well, I'm signed to a company called Fifth Season. That's my management and that's my record label. Okay. Sony is really just there to do marketing and distribution. I'm not a Sony artist per se, but we do have a relationship with them. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. And what like the internet? I mean, I went to your videos. I mean, there's like hundreds of thousands of views, millions of views. Would you say that's helped bolster your appeal too?
Yeah. I think obviously the internet is important, man. The world is getting smaller, but with the use of the internet, I can go on Sway this morning and next week I can live on the internet forever. You can go on the internet now. I got a freestyle on Westwood. I got performances. I got a Vivo channel, blah, 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 blah. So those things help me work while I'm not actually working. Maybe I'm on a plane and you busy watching my video. You know what I mean? So I think that the internet is very important. The world is getting smaller and it's really helped in a big way. Obviously the videos, we put a lot of work into the videos. I can confidently say that we have a good quality product when it comes to the mixing of the music or the songwriting or the videos. It's very international.
Now one thing that people used to say here about international artists is that they almost like they were in a time bubble where we're in the 90s where hip hop was the best.
Yeah.
Do you think that's the case now? Or has that changed?
I think that hip hop has never stopped being the best. And so for me, at least, hip hop there was never a point where I was like, oh man, I don't want to listen to rap no more. I never felt like that ever.
Right.
I'm influenced by dance music, house music, pop music, soul music, old music, Afrobeat music, but hip hop is always number one, and it's always been the compass of where I want to. Maybe I might have taken the influences and like shifted a little bit and turned it into my own version of hip hop. But that's always been the compass. Why do they say international artists? You think they used to say they're stuck in the 90s?
That's what people that travel a lot would say, because obviously a lot of people don't like hip hop here anymore because it's been commercialized. Corporate America has taken over.
Yeah.
And so you have to really look extra hard to get kind of what you would say is real hip hop.
But don't you think that's kind of like a generational thing? Because if
you
if you think about it, like things have to change. Like you see, like let's say this Drake Future tape that they just did. I was reading a article somewhere on the internet, and they were talking about old heads, and they were saying like, you know, people have to have their own time. This age group will have their own time. You know, we have to learn to let go and say, well, what is real hip hop? Because real hip hop to one person is not real hip hop to another person. Yeah. If you listen to Designer's from Brooklyn, right?
Yeah.
But he sounds like he's from Atlanta. That's probably because he's 18 years old. True. You feel what I'm saying? Yeah.
I think the other side of it is just that, you know, there really are other forces that are kind of...
Oh, the man.
You know what I'm saying? Because, like, back in the day, Public Enemy, for example, or anybody, just even Pac and Big. I mean, they could just say anything, everything, and just... You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it would still be successful.
Yeah.
Now, those same type of artists exist, but there's nobody that tries to push them.
But Kanye West is still saying some crazy shit.
Yeah, but Kanye, he says crazy. He doesn't say George Bush doesn't like black people no more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, he says crazy stuff, but he doesn't
say, but he's not going all the way.
He'll
anymore.
Apologize. You know what I mean? So
you think like hip hop has lost like its edginess? It's like political voice.
It was scary at one point. Now it's not scary.
It's not scary anymore.
No. Black people are scary.
Yeah,
but hip hop's not really that scary.
Yeah, because people are doing the whip and the nene.
Yeah. How can you be mad at that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that's a whole nother topic, story, so to speak.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite place where you like to perform, like visit?
Yeah, it's a city in South Africa called Durban.
Well, okay.
Durban is my favorite place to perform in the whole wide world so far.
Okay.
You know, if I keep having shows like I did in New York the other day, maybe New York will climb the list. I really like the vibe out there, and you know where I performed, and just to see, you know, people are homesick. So Nigerians come out, and Zimbabweans come out, and South Africans come out, Zambians, whoever the case may be, plus some new American fans, and you know, people are really open-minded. So I think I'm gonna get used to really enjoying performing in the States a whole lot more. I'm gonna come back, I think next month. I'm gonna do some shows in some different cities, maybe Atlanta, DC, those places.
Okay,
I really want to go to Atlanta.
Yeah, that's dope. What about other areas in Africa that you know, I've heard other places are popping?
Yeah, like places like Nigeria, places like Tanzania, places like Ghana. So Nigeria and Ghana, that's West Africa. East Africa is Kenya and Tanzania, and obviously down south, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Namibia, blah 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 blah. Every region has their own vibe. Everybody has their own dominance of music. So in West Africa, the dominant sound is Afrobeat, the Wiz Kids and the P Squares and the blah 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 blah. In East Africa, they got what they call it, bongo. What do they call it? Like, you know, bongo music. It's like there's the big artists. There's like Diamond Platinums. But you see, the great thing about the South is where hip hop is king. Right. All the best hip hop music comes from the South, especially South Africa. We've got the biggest hip-hop music industry. We put out the best hip-hop music videos, the most content. We have the most shows. It's hard to be a hip-hop artist on the continent. But if you're in South Africa, the world is your oyster.
Do you guys ever battle raps?
Yeah, we used to do that thing, you know. I don't think like on a Smack DVD type vibe, like Loaded Lux type vibes. Right. You gonna get this work type vibes. Not anymore. But we do have this thing called Scrambles for Money. But you don't find no like mainstream artists like myself like go through to like Scrambles for Money. Maybe we'll go in the crowd. Man, we don't even go to stand in the crowd. Somebody's gonna call you out and say, "Yo, we want," you know what I mean? So we do have those platforms though. But there is an artist, Doomy. He's like a commercial, mainstreamish artist, and he does a lot of the battles. And there is that circuit, there is that culture. But you know, I think people are more in tune with trying to become artists because there's money in being an artist, and there's a career and a livelihood and longevity. in the States here, you could live, you don't even have to make a record your whole career, and you can have a whole career just as a battle rapper.
Right.
We don't have that in South Africa. The industry is not that diverse yet.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I hope this isn't too deep of a question.
Yeah.
But, you know, back in the day, there was, you know, apartheid, Mandela,
Mhm,
you know,
mhm.
South Africa was a big thing as far as racism was concerned.
Yeah.
How's that? Is that legacy still present?
Well,
there,
the
or-
legacy of apartheid and racism in South Africa is as alive as the legacy of racism in America. You know, those people didn't just disappear.
Right.
You know, maybe the laws changed, maybe the government might have changed or whatever, but those elements still exist in South Africa. It's just that maybe those types of people maybe like move out the city and they stay in their own little towns, maybe in the small towns, but you still find it like in everyday life, you know, how people might treat you or roll up their window or you know, like in an elevator, maybe you get in an elevator and you got like chains on and you got like a grill and, you know, maybe like, you know, got maybe people like, you know, it still exists in South Africa as well, just as much as it exists in the States. But, you know, we got different problems, but we got kind of like the same struggle. I know like here in the States, this police shit is crazy out of control. I can't even believe the shit that I'm seeing like on the internet. So, you know, that's something that's really, really, you know, sad to see that's happening here in the States. But we all got our own problems, you know. Yeah.
And the other thing I remember when I went to South Africa was this issue of colorism.
Oh.
Is that something?
I suppose that's the same story as it is in the States, you know, like, you know, in South Africa, you know, this thing about light skinned and what your hair is like, or, you know, I think it's a universal thing, you know, even in Africa and places like Nigeria and Congo especially, they have this bleaching thing. People bleach themselves and stuff. So, you know, there's a whole lot of you know, dynamics at play when it comes to what it means as an African identity, whether you an African American or a South African or whatever the case is.
Yeah.